How we doing, everybody? How we doing? Alright. Back it up. Alright, so I told myself I was going to make this a shorter stream, and yet I'm dangerously letting myself in range of streaming the Euro, which I'm not going to do. I'm going to get off before. How am I doing today? I'm doing just fine. Curious what's going to happen with this one. I kind of have an idea. I'll probably go a little bit against the grain of what the models are going, because there's a couple things. When I was trying to think, today I was thinking about, I wasn't looking at models, I was trying to think about everything I know about this stuff, and how it's going to apply to what's really going to happen based on what we have to work with the models. And there are some things I still want to look for when it comes to the models, but I do think, again, with this system, ideally, if you live in New England, you want to wrap this just a little bit closer to the coast and wrap it a little bit more in general, amplify this a little bit more in general. That's what you're hoping for. GFS actually was, this most recent GFS run was actually pretty improved in that regard. Notice how we're a little bit more amplified, more actually good, significantly more amount amplified, and we're able to wrap this in a little bit more to the point where we can get into some more in eastern New England at the very end of the run. You can notice, and just throughout the run too, the closer and the more amplified we do, that buffer period in between, part 1 and part 2 of the storm could be a little bit more significant. And something to consider too, people in the storm could be snowing for like 18 to 24 hours, and that's such a long duration. And considering, we'll see when we get closer. I've taken a look at a lot of soundings. Even when they're in the lighter snow, it doesn't look that bad. It's just temperatures are going to become maybe a little bit more marginal towards the end of the system when we're wrapping in less cold air potentially. And that's why the more we amplify the system, the more we could allow cold air to push down a little bit more. So even despite what we have in models right now, I do kind of have an idea. One thing I will say about New England is I think models are going to underestimate. I think models might underestimate the second part of this system when we start to not completely back the flow, but a little bit. When we consolidate a little bit more 500 right around this period right here, this 30 to 40 yards. Sun angle is a concern on the streets. On the streets here. But you have somewhere to measure your snow, like you have a snowboard you can use to measure your snow. It's not a concern. Again, it's kind of subjective measuring snowfall, but if you have a snow, it's not really that much of a concern in my opinion. The sun angle right now. No one measures snow on the roads really. That's what most people care about, in order to travel, but no one really snows on, and no one really measures the snow on the pavement. But again, it's this period I'm watching, right? The time frame overnight Monday into the early morning Tuesday is what I really want to watch to see how much we can wrap in this system, and also I think how much models could underestimate. Notice our flow, right? It's coming right off the ocean. And how much are we going to be able to pull in? how much moisture we're going to pull in. And I think March 4th, Central Jersey, that's very specific for like that far out. We'll talk about that again at the end. Um, I'm still mostly focused on this system for now because I do think this is going to be a pretty good snowstorm, to be honest. But I do think models may underestimate the cold zone enhancement part of this system. We have above average sea surface temperatures. We kind of saw it at the end of last storm. What's influencing me honestly was the end of last. Again, every setup is different, but in the end of last storm, that we had some pretty good cold zone enhancement that really went under that really got underlooked. A lot of Eastern Mass got an additional 1 to 3 inches of snow with that system. Some that weren't going to get any snow at all picked up like 3-4 inches of snow just from coastal enhancement at the end of the storm with some ocean effect snow. And so if we're able to wrap in just a little bit more the system, just a little bit more, amplify the system just a little bit more, within what models are. And we're not asking for a lot. We can potentially not only wrap in a little bit more cool air, so get a little bit more dynamic cooling, and also get heavier snowfall, which that's really a good thing for everybody. It doesn't really matter. We're sure somewhere would have to sacrifice a little bit, but it is what it is. New York City, again, you're going to be a close call. You may be able to pull off some dynamic cooling at the beginning of the storm. And also, sun angle for New York City is really a concern because look at the time frame of this system. Sun angle is not really a problem if the sun's not up, is it? You got to think about that too. So the duration of the storm is happening, in the nighttime for New York City when you're going to get your best shot for snowfall. Maybe on the backside, we'll see how much you can get in, and then maybe sun angle plays a factor. But I'm not sure how much you're going to get on the backside, anyways, with this system in New York City. At that point, it'll just maybe showers. But I do still think New York City can maybe pull off a 1 to 3. They can. I'll probably go with code into 2 on my snow map. I'll probably have a code into 2 and then overlap 1 to 3. I like to overlap, or I don't. It's not that I like to overlap. I just like to make the most accurate forecast I can. I'm trying to consider. What do I actually think this area is going to get snow wise, and not just try to be obsessed with making the snow map as as to make it look as good as possible. I do want to make the snow map look good. Obviously, you guys have seen some of those streams before. Maybe you haven't. If you have, you know how precise I get with those making those snow maps. So that is important to me. But I also care more about getting it right. Honestly, people care more about getting it right than how it looks. That's the reality at the end of the day. So I'm going to do my best, but I'll overlap a little bit. So I'll probably like a code of 2, 1 to 3 range. Maybe we'll go with a 3 to 6 and then a 6 to 12. Part of me wants to do like a 3 to 6, a 4 to 8, and a 6 to 12, but that may be a little chaotic. But we'll see. I do think pretty much. We don't want to use that color, do we? I think that this area is the most favored. I think this area is still kind of a wild card. This area is still kind of a wild card when it comes to far eastern Mass. But I think most across central western Mass, basically all of northern central Connecticut, a lot of Rhode Island, a lot of Hudson Valley. I think they're pretty good. There's a pretty good lock for them to get at least 4 to 8 inches of snow, and I might do 6 to 12 just because I think a lot of that area will get at least 6 inches of snow. That's where I'm kind of leaning. I think you're just being in that snow. I think that's what's continue to be underestimated here is not exactly prolonged heavy snowfall rates. It's just being in 18 to 24 hours of moderate snow. Rockland County, oh boy, you're gonna make it tough on me, huh? I might go 3 to 6 for Rockland. Rockland might be an area I go 3 to 6 with. We'll see. I'll probably, not sure. I'll probably go borderline 1 to 3, 3 to 6 with Rockland. See, see what models and observations look like in the morning, and I'll come out with a map in the afternoon for y'all. What do I want to look at? One thing I will say is we'll probably have pretty good snow growth in the beginning, so I think that will be a very positive. We're on some really strong low-level energy watch moving through here at 700. You can see some really strong, a little bit of a buffer period, and then there's some leftover for New England to work with at the end of the system, and that could, right, a lot of this offshore you see, right, a lot of this offshore, a little bit works in here, but just a little too far south or a little too far east. If we're able to work that, I mean, just small changes, can imagine it's not just, moving this, small changes to the amplification can like double the move. It's hard to describe that, how some of those like small changes work. 6 to 12, I don't think that's likely. Definitely not at the higher end of that range. I could see a max ceiling for Rockland being, like a 6 to 9 inch range potentially. I think that's maybe your ceiling. I think like a 2 to 5 wouldn't be a bad bet for Rockland right now. I would lean kind of towards there at the moment. And I say this at the moment. This is where I'm thinking right now. I do have some concerns, if it just a little bit, models aren't handling, or I don't want to say not handling, but if models are just a little, one thing I don't, just a smidge north, this upper level low works, and a lot more people dry slot. Where would your jackpot / wildcard area be? It's this part of New England right here. That's the jackpot wildcard area that can really, like, that could be the difference, like 3-4 inches and like 9 or 10 inches for some people, more particularly in Eastern Mass, because I think your people will be just interior enough. I think I happen to be in actually a relatively good spot for relative to where we stand with models right now, and some of the different scenarios that are at hand. I think I tend to be in a pretty good spot. Just so happens for this storm, I hope so. I mean, I've been in decent spots for a lot of these, even some of the like known some of these setups you're going to mix in, and I just haven't verified, like really localized stuff. I just haven't been in a jackpot area yet this year. But I'm not going to complain. It's like the difference between 4 or 5 inches on the seasonal snowfall total. So it is what it is. I don't think I know where you're trying to get at. You're hoping that like northern New Jersey's like a jackpot wild card, but that's just rain snow line stuff. For me, the rain snow line changing isn't as much as a wild card as the potential, depending on how much we amplify our upper level low, and how much we can back the flow into New England. That's really where, I've said that from day one of this system, that when we've been getting into more specific details for the past few days. I said this, a few days ago, like this is the wild card that we'll be watching all the way up until the night of, so we'll be watching this all the way up. So that we're definitely not done. I'm trying to figure this out. We'll be trying to figure this out all day tomorrow. I know I will be, because there's just a few too many question marks that still remain at this point. I think if you live in northern New Jersey, what you're hoping on is keep an amplified system, and you get dynamic cooling to work its way. I mean, some really strong upper level energy, and then some pretty strong mid level dynamics to work with too. So I think we'll have some pretty decent lift to work with, some pretty good forcing, and along with us being cold, maybe not exactly northern New Jersey, maybe a little bit closer to 32, but Hudson Valley, Connecticut into New England. There will be some really good snow ratios to work with here, likely above 10-1. Get a little bit of fluff factor, kind of like yesterday. Maybe not that much of a fluff factor, but you get what I'm saying. I think there will be higher than 10-1 ratios, maybe 12-1 plus ratios for some people tomorrow. And then inside, if you get into those really good bands, then maybe you can get like 15-1 ratios for a period of time as we look at soundings. And super. Even here we're 28. I mean, we're pretty good. Pretty good forcing here. You stay relatively cold. Dendritic gross zone from 5 to 600. That's not bad. It's not amazing, but it's pretty good. And then you also, but just relatively throughout the column, a little bit of a warm layer at 700. But we're not even flirting really with that 0 degree line right here. And this is also in Connecticut. So if we, that's probably a good 10-1, 12-1 ratio right there. Slide up into, that's about the same. We got here in the Hudson Valley, still 30. It's not like it's that different from my thoughts, so I'm just trying to find. I might have to go a little bit farther north. Still 28. I mean, I guess. There you go, 26. Now here's what I'm talking about. Northeast Connecticut right here, right? 26 degrees. Right, again, that from 5 to 600, that 5 to 600, right? And we stay almost, we flirt with -5, around 750. But other than that, we're really cold throughout the column, and we're really good, omega to work with here, meaning our lift or forcing in the atmosphere we're working with, about -1 throughout the dendritic gross zone. So, it's a good moderate to heavy snow sounding. Right there, you can get some, like 12-1 ratios with that, and in that kind of band right there. Relatively fast-moving system in the beginning. For people in like Pennsylvania, and potentially some spots in New York, you'll move through those bands real fast, and then it'll start to slow down a little bit as the system moves into New England. All right, I feel like I've missed. No, I haven't missed any questions. Okay, just people hopping in and out. Let's see, HRR. I'm not really concerned about where exactly the placement is. Again, I like to use the mesoscale models. Relative, they're fun. Some of those runs can be fun to look at, but I really like to use the mesoscale models for the soundings more in particular. You get some really good information. This is particularly colder run as well. Again, some of these soundings may be skewed depending on what exactly how correct of the run plays out. So you don't want to believe it's the end all be all, but you do want to take some concern. It looks like just this is a little bit weaker of a run in particular, so you're not going to get as strong of omega. But I mean, this sounding, right off, there'll be some pretty good snowfall totals up here in upstate New York, because you're going to get, you can see here, you can see really good mid-level, Vort look right there. Some really strong bands that move through upstate New York, and these will get into New England as well, and to Hudson Valley, northern Jersey, across New York City, northern Jersey, New York City. We'll see how much that is rain versus snow, but still going to be some pretty good mid-level lift to work with throughout the nighttime tomorrow night. And you can see upstate New York, southern Vermont, Berks, even into central Mass and Connecticut, Hudson Valley, Northeast PA, Northern Jersey, all going to get into some really good bands. Tomorrow evening into tomorrow night, as we're just starting to pop off with our low. All right, slow down a little bit, and we'll see how much we can amplify, how much low level energy, how much, or more specifically, how much mid level lift in the atmosphere we still have to work with. And because I don't think moisture will be too big of a concern at that point, or dry air, I should say, rather than moisture. But mid level lift, we'll see how much more, how much more good dynamics we still have to work with, and that will be part of the key. So, gun to my head, you want me to make a snow map? Let's see where I'm going to lean. It will probably be something, I want to put, I know what we have for models are showing, but I really do believe that we'll see, temperatures might be the only thing holding me back. If you're too warm at the surface, might force, to be rain for a lot of people in farther southeast Mass. But my gut is telling me with this to go 6 to 12 close to the coast here, just because I think they could be able to pull in some really good bands off the ocean with that second part of the system. And even though snow growth may not be as great at that point, it will be able to pull in some pretty good. It will depend on a little bit. And, we just talked about that with how much good dynamics are left with this storm. But I do think that models may underestimate the moisture return that we get off the ocean. Again, those above average sea surface temperatures, like we have been working with the whole winter. I think it will, help benefit a lot of people in in southern New England in particular. That being said, I think I would go something like this. Something like this for the 6 to 12 to 48. And where exactly would I cut? I'm not. Seems like I want to go somewhere around here. Something like that. I don't know. I'll have to take a look at that. I haven't looked at I haven't looked super hard into the northern fringe, so I'll have to dive deeper into that. It looks like that northern fringe will get there. I can probably shift that. I can probably shift that a little bit more northwest. I can probably get that. Probably get that up a little bit more. And then it will probably, we'll see how much, maybe like a 3 to 6 to far northern New Jersey, northeast PA, and then the extreme coast. And then, tight 1 to 3 after that, and then probably a coating, probably the coating to 2 for somewhere down to here across Long Island. I might go 1 to 3 Long Island. I'll probably flirt with a coating 2, 1 to 3 to give myself a little bit of leeway for New York City. That's kind of where I'm leaning right now. Just thoughts for my snowfall map tomorrow. Again, my snowfall map range for those curious is it's like I think it's what is it? No, it's farther. No, I don't do DC. I don't F around with DC. Sorry, DC, not a chance. I don't need you mad at me too. I already have New York City, Philly, and Boston to do that for me already. This is my snowfall map. This is the area I do. So pretty a lot of population, a lot of people that live in there. So I tried to We're doing expansion this year, the region, and just try to give the people what they want. At the same time, giving myself what I want. A good looking snowfall map. Damn right I do. Early thoughts on March 4th. So with March 4th, you get more questions on that what do you call it? No, I don't need to go back here. On this one, this boy right here from Monday, Tuesday. Just keep asking them, and I'll go back and forth. I don't mind. But regards to this one, let's see, how does this compare to previous? Dropped it a little bit further south. Same thing we did previous run. But, initially, it looks like it's going to be able to get pulled a little bit further north once it gets further east. That's not what happened. This is going to be complicated. The confluence that we're going to have with this is like there's multiple parts to our confluence. This is until we get really closer and it becomes established what is going on up here. Every single run, it's going to change like 100 freaking miles from here to here. Like, so we're going to have to get, really going to have to get some. We're just gonna really have to give this some more time, to be honest, until we can get closer. I mean, still 5 days out with this freaking thing, so you gotta keep that into consideration. When we're forecasting, we still gotta get this one. I'm really a big advocate of not trying to buy it unless like unless it's like 2 days after or something, a single storm. I'm really a big advocate of making sure we let things pass first and get them out of the way. Before we make decisions, like this is one thing to consider. This is a rapidly intensifying cyclone we got moving over the Midwest right now. So I'm sure there'll be some adjustments from models tomorrow morning. Trying to figure out how exactly this system is evolving. It's just like simple stuff like that. And then as this gets out of the way, we'll see the interaction between the interaction between our northern branch up here, our middle guy, how much the more, what if we amplified this and our upper level low was right off here tomorrow morning, and then all of a sudden we're, I don't know tomorrow morning, but come storm time, we're up here, and then we're talking about, like widespread 6 to 12 plus across New England and then into the Hudson Valley as well, obviously, but then the storm is kind of, we already have a good idea of what's happening in the Hudson Valley and New York City, PA. That's not really as much of a wild card with this one. So when it comes to this storm, we still have to figure out all that stuff. Let's take a broad view here. All right, this is the big picture. There's still a lot that has to work through. That polar vortex disruption playing a big factor, and that turns into an extension of our storm after, and this ends up working. So here's why this is complicated, and here's why we have to wait to let this thing develop. How this attaches itself, like how this evolves with our stream interaction to the system with our polar vortex. I mean, it's really just our whole polar vortex in general. Our displacement, it's just favoring Europe right now, which sucks for us, but we're still getting some pretty good action out of it. So we're not going to complain. We get some decent blocking. Can't complain too much about it because we're getting what we haven't got all winter, which is high latitude blocking, which we will absolutely take. So, but the point being is, notice how this directly is connected to our confluence for our next system that we're watching. It's directly connected, right? The atmosphere is all a big one game of dominoes. We talked about this with this storm. And so it's directly connected to our confluence for this system. So the more we hold back, the more we probably wrap this in, hold our confluence further south, we're going to allow this to push further off the coast, and that's why when you were seeing some of those mid-Atlantic runs, you were really pressing down with that confluence. And then some of these more northern runs, like the GFS has been a little bit more consistently, has the confluence up here. This run a little bit further south. And just the evolution of the way it held back. So there's just all these different factors. I mean, not all these different factors, but all these different variables, within, our large factor of the polar vortex here that we've been watching with this storm. And then we have to watch with the next one. Notice, and then the one after that gets evolved in the flow, and then becomes connected with the one after that. Obviously we don't know what's going to happen really quite yet with that time frame, but still, you can see the point. A lot of our atmosphere, or a lot of our pattern in the atmosphere right now is super connected to the polar vortex. It makes sense. We just had a major disruption to the polar vortex. Obviously, a lot of it is going to be connected. There's still just a lot of not pieces necessarily. Yes, technically a lot of pieces, but just a lot of variables within the pieces we're watching right now, and the evolution of how that happens is going to be really important to exactly how every step proceeds with the upcoming forecast, especially more in particular as we've gotten closer to this one. Now with the next one. And also, how this we haven't even sampled our energy yet. We've, I guess, technically a little bit of it, but not really. And we still have to wait for our energy to get sampled. So, tomorrow, our energy starts to come ashore, our vorticity starts to come ashore, and that's even just part of it, to be honest. The main batch of it comes through on Wednesday, 20th, on Tuesday, Wednesday. That's when the main batch comes through. That's when it really drops in over the U.S. We're gonna have to, be a little bit patient too to get some good sampling, and then that doesn't even consider what we just talked about. I guess we did consider it, but doesn't even consider what we're just talking about right now. When in regards to also watching our confluence, the polar vortex, and the pressing, and the blocking we'll have in place with this system. We have good cold air to work with. It's just that cold air can be moved a little bit depending on what exactly evolves with our polar vortex. And in particular, how this system interacts with the polar vortex. It's not like this system is special. We just have to, it's not like more special than any other, scenario that we see with, systems interacting with the polar vortex. It's just what we're watching. I don't even know. That's what it is. All right. We'll look at GFS. See how this played out exactly. This specific run, we can do some run-to-run analysis, because why not? All right, we already tell a little bit less amplified. Notice on this run, instead of getting pulled further north, everything gets brought back a little bit more progressively. I think that's an okay way to say it. Notice a little bit more amplified, and then everything gets pulled. Right? When we talk about amplification, typically look for amplified stuff to be more reserved and your energy to get held back more. When you see stuff more progressive on a run, things tend to flatten out a little bit more, and your energy typically has moved a little bit further east faster. If not faster, just your energy is typically the angle which it's tilted is a little bit further east rather than farther north when you get amplified. So how does this relate to the surface? I mean, I'm sure this will make some people happy in the Northeast, and I'll emphasize this too. The key with this, don't focus really on the P-type map. I don't know why I'm going zoomed in here in the Northeast. But the sooner Well, what we prefer is we can get our confluence further back, not only just so we can stay colder here, but initially delay amplification and allow our system to amplify a little bit further east a little bit later, allow it to gain latitude later, not only so we can remain to be able to stay mixing or avoid mixing for a lot of the 995 quarter northeast, but also so we can the timing of when we amplify can allow the heaviest axis of snow to be here instead of here. That's one of the main differences we talked about last night, and some of the model runs we were having. Um, I think that will also be important of when exactly the timing of this of our heavy snow takes place. Like when we really start to take off with our system. So I would watch. Again, we have to watch what's going to happen with this storm first, the one we're watching, and still have to wait for energy to be sampled. So it's going to take a little bit of time to figure all these finer details out. But one thing we will be able to see, we can look at the short term. In the meantime, figuring stuff out is how does our energy come ashore? Does it come ashore later? Does it come ashore earlier? Does it come ashore? Did it get dropped in further south? Is it farther south and more progressive, or is it farther south? Is it farther south and more progressive, or is it farther south more reserved? Does it take more time for it to get dropped in? So does it get dropped in a little bit later? Does it get dropped in sooner, but we have more confluence, so it presses it down further east, and then we allow late amplification, or does it get pulled in sooner, and then it gets caught under the confluence? All last two scenarios are a little bit more later to watch, but in the short term, these are stuff we can watch just in model runs, rather than getting caught up over how specifically does it relate, because we're just gonna have to wait a little bit with this. We're just gonna have to wait a little bit in order to figure out where exactly our confluence is going to set up. But stuff we can watch for just to see how amplified does our energy come ashore. That's something we can immediately watch with every run that happens. So with this one, you can already tell previous run. A little bit more energy gets dropped in a little bit further south, but notice the angle. Versus the previous one. Oh no. Angle is a little bit different. So despite energy getting held back further south, also consider the where it gets, I don't know, where exactly it gets pointed at in regards to, that's something like sounds simple, but it is important. And then you're trying to figure out exactly what happens with the confluence. That's another issue. So we can't really get too far deep into what exactly the interaction is with the confluence yet, and that's what more people care about because we live in this area. We live in this area, so we care more about that. Even though we're just gonna have to be a little bit more patient. That's the reality. Alrighty. And we're not going to stay up for the euro, but do we have what questions do we have? I can't tell you how much snow you're getting in your backyard for this system, but I can provide some insight maybe on what changes you need to happen. Dog. just every stream, this dog has to move from a spot, lick his lips, make some noise, make his presence known for some reason. Just lie down. Stop making so much noise. Thank you. Really? Do I have any ideas of where it favors? I think we covered just a lot of that where I stand, but I'll lean just based on what we have now with models. I'll lean more interior, but that doesn't mean exactly that's how it's gonna play out. So we're just gonna have, we're just gonna have to be a little bit more patient. I'll lean interior, but I-95 can absolutely be in play, and honestly, Mid-Atlantic can still be in play with this system, depending on how much we press down on it. This can be such a wide variety where really I could see anybody from here to here really get involved. It's going to be a pretty large system too. So I know I just drew a massive area. You're like there to there. That's a massive difference. But yeah, it looks like a more massive difference than in reality, but it is just going to be a large storm in general. So there's going to be a pretty wide precip shield with this one, and precip will get out front ahead of the system too. But super strong. I mean, this screams to me a big time spirit weather outbreak as well. Just being so close to the Gulf of Mexico, pulling in some Pacific, moist air, pulling in some Gulf of Mexico moisture into the system, and just that looks like the really classic severe weather outbreak. Your wintertime severe weather setup. It just looks pretty evident to me that there's going to be a pretty big time severe weather outbreak. I use big time a lot, but I don't want to say I don't want to hype it and say a historic or something. I don't want to say something like that. A lot of people like to give out the take, like to make their hot take. I don't know if you can hear that. There are coyotes right now that are howling so loud. They are howling so loud right now. Let's see. Let me turn this down. That is ridiculous. Let me turn this up. It's going to get really loud. My voice is probably going to be a lot louder now. Can any of you all hear that or no? You can hear it? That's maybe the loudest. I've been living here for a long time. That is maybe the loudest I've ever heard that. Probably the loudest you've ever heard my voice too on this stream. I mean, that was like an outbreak. Turn it back down. Damn, that was loud. I know it's. I mean, if you could hear it, you can just get an idea of how much I could hear it right there. All right, we get any last questions? Any last questions? I mean, they can be about coyotes, but I don't know how much I can answer for you. Pacific, my rear, it's ugly head after this. See, I don't want to get too. I can pet my dog. I won't do it right now. I'll probably do it later. Take him out. Dog is always waking me up at 6 a.m. so he can go to the bathroom. All right. Seems like we're out of questions, so I'm gonna pop off. I'll be on Twitter. I'll be watching the Euro, even if I don't say anything about it. But we'll stream tomorrow night, most likely. And and then after once we get to Wednesday, we'll go. We'll probably stream Tuesday, and we'll talk about both systems. But once it gets to Wednesday, we're gonna go all in on that next system, regardless of where it is.